Good morning, everyone. We'd like to call this session of the Board of Division to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our Treaty Water Country Shoal Lake 40 First Nation, Treaty 3 territory. With me today is Terry Linkletter, immediately to my right, and Maurice Terrian, one seat over. My name is Harvey Diamond. The City Assessment Department is represented by Jason Bourne, who is attending by Zoom, and our Administrative Assistant is Stephen Lund. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note that you will be placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close your mute or mute your YouTube player. You'll then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing is concluded, you can leave the meeting. We'll be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rules in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested being described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing must be sworn testimony. Anyone speaking to matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions based on evidence provided at the hearing and issues a written order that we mail to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or if the Court of Queen's Bench, the matter pertains to an application for exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will be given an opportunity to summarize the wish to do so. Once all the evidence upon an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The person will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decision to receive the Board's decision by written mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of a public record. And the only matter that we're hearing today is item number 1. And Mr. Lund, you can please swear in the parties at this point.
Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Jason Brown.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And then Mr. Applicant, if you please stand. And please state your full name.
Lowell Laylock.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thanks, Mr. Brown. I understand that there is some further evidence that we haven't seen yet that has been brought today. And I understand it's just one little piece of paper. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet. Has it been emailed to me? Oh,
I'm waiting for my scan to come through.
okay. Yeah.
I guess
If I could just get some clarification on what the actual new information is.
It's the normalized rate for 2017, 18, and 19.
Okay, so you revised your column on the far right hand side of your income workup.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you just was there a significant change, or was it just like a couple line items?
Well,
Did
basically,
you just change the figures, kind of like change your approach to how you normalized it?
Yeah, because after I saw your stuff, I realized that you're doing an average of several years.
Yeah, that's definitely the approach we've taken, and you're free to take your own approach. Yeah, I mean, I guess my biggest question would just be, did the net operating income go up or down? Did you normalize it? In which way did you change it?
The net operating income went down.
Okay, so what's your new net operating income?
692. 637.
692.
637.
Is that your net operating income or your your final value after the cap rate?
Well, after the cap rate is.
Okay, so you're down from 1,018,000 and change down to just under 700,000?
No, down to like, if you do this other way, it goes down to 282, but that's ridiculously low.
Okay, I'll wait for it. I mean, if you're just revising your stabilized, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can indicate Jason for myself if Evan's going to give him verbally in any event, and if it is in writing, we will then be able to see exactly what's being referred to. So it might be helpful.
Yeah, to me, it's not necessarily new evidence. It's just how he's interpreting the.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But until you see it, I don't think that you can really make a decision. So, you know that thing?
It hasn't come through yet.
Yes, this is the advantage of being in person.
Yeah.
We can go into a short recess and I can try again.
Yeah, let's go to short assistant.
What we could do is I could start because honestly, I'm not going to address that until the applicant starts their presentation.
Okay, so well, you know what, then that's okay, then we'll make a determination when.
We'll start mine, and then if it's not, yeah, if it's not through by the time we're done, we could take a break then.
Okay, no, and I like that. So certainly go ahead and as soon as you're ready to prevent your evidence system around.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the file number is 22-442. Roll number is 13060907000. Subject address is at 231 McDermott Avenue. This is the Mariage Hotel. It is a themed boutique style hotel. For the 2023 roll year, we have a split classification assessment. We have $2,175,000 at class code 60 or other property, and that's taxable. And we have $354,000 as institutional or CC40, and that's exempt, and that's the Royal Canadian Legion. Represents approximately 7% of the total assessment. The subject has 13 guest rooms. On page 3 of my evidence, we have a site-specific income approach. So for this cycle, due to the current climate, we've gone to a 3-year average stabilized. We've chosen this methodology to smooth out any abnormal years that might have arrived due to the global pandemic. Unfortunately, the reference year was right smack dab in the middle of the pandemic, and a lot of hotels did struggle. The one before us today actually did quite well, but that's the reason for the 3-year average. So we can see we have 2018, 2019, and 2020 columns. Reference year is 2021. So we've used the last full year of income and expense information, which is 2020. I'll note that the income was increasing over the 3 years, was pretty stable in 18 and 19, and then jumped about $250,000 in 2020. You can see that in the effective gross income as well. It was hovering around 760 and then jumped to just under $1 million in 2020. We've stabilized the expenses. These are the expenses as they've been submitted to us over the 3 years. And I have the 3 years of INEs at the end, which I'll point you to when we get to that point. So we've stabilized the rooms and the food cost. We've used a 3-year average. Telephone is only reported 1 year, so we use the full amount, although it does say 3-year average. That's a mistake. That's the departmental expenses. And you'll see that we've actually added in another, under the other line item, we've added an extra $54,300. This was not reported in any of the income and expenses. We just felt that this property has commercial aspect to it. So we added in some expenses for those commercial units. Below that, we have the undistributed expenses, starting with administration in general. And you can see the breakdown for those on the following page at the bottom. So these include just administration and general expenses, such as professional fees, telephone, supplies, etc. So we've calculated those, we've transferred them into that column. We have the management wages at $120,000 every year for the 3 years, and we've used that. Marketing, energy, water, repair, and maintenance are all 3-year averages. They all look pretty stable, so I think the 3-year average is appropriate there. Management fees and FF&E reserve are separate calculations to remove the business value of the hotel. So what we're trying to determine today is the value of the bricks and mortar and the underlying land. Unfortunately, the income and expenses are tangled up in that. So this is a mechanism to remove that business value. So we've calculated the management fees at 4% and the FF&E reserve at 3%. We've used the actual 2020 business and property taxes and a 3-year average for the insurance. This gives us a average or a stabilized net operating income of $238,037, capitalize that at 8%, and then a further reduction of 15% for FF&E, which is furniture, fixtures, and equipment, which aren't accessible today. This gives us a final value of $2,529,000. Now, I'll just note that the 3-year average of the NOI for the 3 years was $260,466, which is higher than the stabilized that we've used today. And I'll also note that the commercial aspect of this building is incorporated into this income approach, and therefore it's benefiting from the management fees and the FF&E reserves that normally a commercial unit wouldn't receive. It's also benefiting from the 8% cap. Normally, this type of property would be between 6 or 7% cap. And it's benefiting from the added expenses from the hotel. So in essence, I believe the commercial aspect of this is slightly undervalued. If we were to do 2 separate income streams, I believe the value of the commercial would be much higher than what's represented in here. I'll also note that their property taxes at $26,760 represents 3.2% of the total income. The average for the city of Winnipeg hotels is 6% of income. So this hotel is already paying roughly half of a percentage of the income as other properties in the city. On page 4, at the top, we have the reconciliation. So what we've done here is we've taken the net operating income from the financial statements, and then we've just added back anything that normally would not be allowed in income approach, such as amortization in 2018. And you'll see that those 3 bottom net operating incomes correspond with the 3 bottom ones on my income approach. And this just shows that we've used everything in the statement and nothing was disregarded. We have our capitalization rates on page 5. Hotels are located at the bottom. This hotel doesn't necessarily fall into any of these 3 types of hotels, but we can see the averages range from about 7.5 to 10, with downtown full service being the lowest and select service also being among the lowest. We have a map on page 6 and an aerial view. So this is located on the corner of McDermott and Arthur and Albert. Irregularly shaped parcel. We have some street view pictures on page 7. Interior pictures on 8 and 9. Pages 10 and 11 show all the 13 suites. These are all themed after different locations in the world. Page 12, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Lillette, but I believe that during the pandemic, the property has gone to, or at least started offering some daytime visits. So it's 8 hours between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. And the prices range from about $300 to $700 for those 8 hours. Amenities on page 13. A little write-up off their website on page 14 of just some of the advantages of this hotel over some other ones. Pictures of the commercial units on page 15 and 16. I walked by the other day, I realized that I think one of them's moved out, but I believe that's post-reference. We have the Municipal Act on page 17. I do want to just point out on page 18 at the top, the effect of providing inconsistent information. I'm not seeking that today, but I do want to highlight it. It is going to be a slight issue today. So this part of the legislation was put in to protect the city from new information coming up at the Board of Revision. It leaves the city vulnerable for budgeting, and that's the reason for that part of the legislation. And then going forward, all the income and expenses that were used to generate this assessment, we've used what was supplied to us to generate our income and expense workup. And based on that, we asked that the assessment of $2,529,000 be accepted. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, you have an opportunity now of asking any questions that you might have of the assessor. Not give your evidence, but if there's any questions based on what he's just, his evidence, you can ask them now.
Have you been in the hotel before?
I have been in a hotel for a wedding. It was a while ago, probably about 10 years ago. I do walk by it on a daily basis, and I looked at the pictures on the internet as well.
So you know the whole concept then is the furnishings and the art and the statues and design of the rooms is what allows us to charge more money.
Yeah, your hotel is obviously very unique in that regard. And the furnishings are obviously above it. Most other hotels in the city are it. All other hotels in the city, I can even say.
Yeah, like everything in our Mexico room is from that country. Like table and chair set is from Guadalajara, and all the artwork is
You're
from.
asking, you're asking questions now, not giving evidence. So you could ask him if he knows that if you want to, but don't provide evidence. So you have an opportunity in a few minutes to make your presentation.
Okay.
Okay.
And the basically, the whole purpose of this is to value the bricks and mortar of the hotel, and not the furnishings, right?
Correct, and that's the reason why we have those calculations of the 4% and the 3%, which would, the 4% represents what it would cost to hire an outside source to manage your hotel, and the FF&E reserve, there's two of them, the 3% and the 15% are to remove the furniture, fixtures, and equipment from the value.
Is there I'm curious on the cap rate. Is there how do you come up with 8% as opposed to 10%? And
so cap rates are derived by looking at sales of properties, and we take the net operating income of the property and divide it by the sale price, and that gives us a net operating income.
yeah, but how do you get the cap? How do you decide one property is 8% cap rate and the other property is 10% cap rate?
Well, we divide the hotels into two classes: rooms hotels and beverage hotels. So rooms hotels derive most of their income from room rentals. Beverage hotels derive most of their income from beverage sales. So yours falls obviously into the rooms category.
Right, because we don't have a beverage room, right?
Correct.
Right.
So that would be the reason for that.
So the rooms are a lower cap rate than the beverage hotels?
Generally, yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with the increased costs of insurance?
Well, looking at the 3 years in my evidence, they range from 2018 at 16,252. And then in 2019, it jumps from 17,846. And then in 2020, it goes down 17,595. We've averaged that. We've used the I might have actually even used the most current year, unless the average just happens to be that. But I mean, they're all pretty close, right?
Yes, but now do you realize that the insurance has almost tripled?
I haven't realized that, but unfortunately, that's post-reference material for this appeal. That would be evidence in the next cycle's appeal. So the reference date for this cycle is April 1st, 2021, and we're kind of, have to use information from before that date.
So right now, you're not considering the actual costs of insurance.
We're valuing the subject as if it were to sell on April 1st, 2021, and the information that was available on that date. So it's economic conditions as of April 1st, 2021, but it's physical conditions as of January 1st, 2023.
Okay, well, that's obviously an issue for lots of hotels, especially ours. But essentially,
Okay, you'll be allowed to give your evidence later. Right now, if you have any other questions, you can definitely ask them. If you finished asking questions, you can leave.
I think it's finished asking.
That's fine, right? Okay, and you'll be given ample opportunity to put forward all your arguments, and we'll listen to them in a few minutes. Mr. Terry, any questions, the assessor?
Yeah, well, I was looking at page 3, obviously, but I got a question on the exempt.
Excuse me, sorry, sir. Could I have a copy of that the fellas? Do you have a copy of that report that they're talking about?
Well, you get on the screen, I think, on the events. Did you like to get a copy?
I did, but I didn't realize that I couldn't. I thought someone was going to bring it.
Oh, I see.
Oh, yeah.
Like that.
We shared evidence with you 2 weeks ago, correct?
Yeah, you gave me that evidence and I went through it, but I don't have it in front of me.
See, is it available to the applicant on the?
No, that's the personal computer. I went on. You're willing to take a short recess, but
Well, I think I wouldn't want him hampered by
Okay.
not having.
So-
I can get it on my phone.
Well, if you want to get on your phone, then take your, if you need time, and if you might ask other questions because you look at it, I'll give you that opportunity to ask any question that might come from it.
If you could print it off, that'd be the best.
If you like a copy, we'll take a short recess.
Just of those, not of everything, just of those.
Just the numbers.
Yeah,
Yes,
just,
you don't need a picture, you don't need a photograph.
I don't need the photographs or anything.
Right. Okay, we'll take a short recess. So we just ended and took a short recess while you got some of the evidence and hard copies of the assessors using. And you were asking questions and you didn't stop. But if you have any questions that arise from that material, now that you have it, I'll permit you to ask them, Mr. Brown. If I don't have any other questions, that's fine. We'll just go on.
No, we can continue.
Okay. Mr. Terry, you were questioning.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and get my mind in acronym now. The exempt portion, institutional, 354,000. Could you clarify that for me a little more, please?
So that's for the Royal Canadian Legion located on the ground level on the corner. You can see it on the picture on page 2.
Okay,
So that portion of the property is exempt just due to the legislation.
okay. Okay, now there's no VLTs in there, I saw. Now, on page 3, you refer to the taxes at At 3% more or less, yeah. And you were saying the average for hotels in the city is around 6%
That's the average for rooms hotel. That's correct.
for rooms hotel?
Yeah.
Okay. I was also, could you clarify that comment about the 8-hour charge? Like you were saying that there was some activity during the day and there was a rate that was pretty, if I call substantial, of what happens during the day?
Yeah, I think that's a sign of good management that they were able to pivot during the pandemic and move to a slightly different business model where they were offering people the 8 hours between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. is, I'm assuming, is kind of a daytime getaway.
So would that be the reason that the increase in 2020 on the income side and the NOI was quite a bit higher?
I suspect that this hotel was well positioned during the pandemic, where people weren't allowed to travel. This hotel perhaps provided people with the ability to
because
get away, so to speak.
Yeah, if I look at I was a little, I was quite interested in this 2018, 19, and 20, and there was quite an increase in NOI from 228, 315 to 464. And then you stabilize it at 238, which is quite a bit lower than what the actual was on the reference date of April the 1st, 2021.
That's correct. This was not the norm for most hotels during this period. This
Okay.
hotel performed exceptionally well.
Yeah, and again, at the next page, I think it's the NOI again. You're comparing the 3 years, 18, 19, and 20.
Correct.
Okay. I want to see if there's anything else. Yeah, that 54.3 that was taken off at the as a minus under other. Could you go over that again quickly?
So that wasn't reported in any of the income and expenses, but we did recognize that there is commercial units here. And there's, if you look on the revenue portion at the top, there's an under other, there's a significant revenue.
Yeah,
So
okay.
those are the commercial rents.
Okay.
And just to give those commercial rents an expense allowance. That wasn't reported to us, but we figured it was probably there.
Okay, I think that answers most of my questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Ms. Linkletter, do you have any questions?
I just have one quick question. Good morning, Mr. Brown.
Good morning.
I'm just wondering, would you, in your experience, say that this property is rather unique?
It is very unique. I don't believe there's truly a good comparable in the city for this property.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to further say, and I don't mean in regards to the theme, but more to the size, having only 13 suites.
Yeah, having 13 suites it can be an advantage and a disadvantage. Obviously, you have less rooms to rent, but your operations are also smaller as well. And we're actually going to see a different approach coming up where the appellant does a price per room, but we'll address that when we get to it.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay, so Mr. Brown, you use actual reported income to come up with your valuation on an income approach.
Correct.
How you did that.
And all that information is located in my brief, just to show.
And you did it. So I guess I see where that came from. But how do you arrive at an 8% cap rate?
8% cap rate. So we did look at outside sources. They were a bit, because of the pandemic, we were seeing some pretty wide range of cap rates. Obviously, if the NOI goes down, but the sale prices don't go down equivalently, the cap rate's going to drop. Because the lower the NOI with the same sale price generates a lower cap rate. So I think it was one of the reasons why we're seeing a bit of a lower cap rate is the NOIs dropped on a lot of these properties, but the sale prices perhaps didn't. We didn't see any distressed sales during this period. And we do have very little sales, but the sales we do have support the 8%, and the outside sources also support the 8%. And you can see on page 5, the low on the range is actually 7.5. So we're slightly above that, although I will admit that this hotel doesn't necessarily fall into those categories.
Yeah, well, I look at it, I see it's an older building. I know it's been renovated significantly, but it's still an older building, and it's really in an area of the city that wouldn't maybe generate the highest cap rates in the city in most circumstances.
I agree with that. However, I believe the risk is mitigated on this building because of the commercial units. And just because of the high degree of finish. Yeah, it's obviously always a subjective thing, the cap rates, without hard evidence, but those are the cap rates we've used on all these types of properties, and we feel that it's fair and equitable.
Yeah, and that's fair comment. And I know that you're in a position where it may be difficult, but I also see it as a very unique hotel. And so that probably would mean that it'd be a unique buyer who would buy it. It wouldn't be just any hotel operator.
Yeah, I agree. This is a unique building, and there is some.
Yeah, so that on the market, it wouldn't be maybe something that any hotel purchaser would buy. It'd be a unique hotel purchaser.
I do agree with you, but I do think the bottom line value is pretty in line with what we're seeing. Like the Woodbine Hotel sold for $1 million about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's significantly smaller than this. Significantly lower degree of finish, different clientele. So and obviously the same area. So just to me, I feel like with the commercial units and just the way this building's performing, I feel like it's in line with what we're seeing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Linkletter, I think, has a further question. I'll allow her to ask it.
I do, thank you. Mr. Brown, so your cap rate of 8%, that is model driven?
So hotels don't necessarily use a model because there's so few properties in the city. So that's why we use the site specific approach for these properties. So the cap rate it's not computer selected, it's human selected, but we do it, as I explained earlier, on a rooms or beverage basis.
Okay. So you selected this cap rate during a period of, during the pandemic. And so I'm assuming, I think you had stated there were not a lot of sales during this period?
I believe we had 2 sales.
Okay.
And we weren't seeing the prices go down a lot, but the NOIs were, of course. So the one sale I'm thinking of, if you use their actual NOI from 2020 against the sale price, the cap rate was 2.9%, which is obviously insane. So that's why we use the 3-year average to normalize that NOI and to not have to use a low cap rate like a 2%, which doesn't make sense.
Okay, but you're stating you only had 2 sales during this time?
Yeah, and I mean, everybody only had 2 sales.
Yes.
Talent, so.
Okay.
It's just the difficulty with valuing hotels during this period. It's obviously a whole different environment or.
Right. So then just my last question in regards to these 2 sales, were they properties did they have any similarity to the subject property today?
Well, once again, there is no property similar.
No. Okay. Right. Nope. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay, thank you. That's, I think, all the questions that we have. So now, Mr. Uppett, you can bring forward your evidence.
Okay. Basically, 35 years ago, when my father bought this building, we've always considered ourselves not a hotel. Not a hotel in a conventional sense. And I think we all agree that this is completely a very unique property. And when we went through this process many years, 4 years ago, the city assessed our property at the 2.5 million. And we went through this appeal, and I'm not sure if it's the same board members and chair people, but they realized that our value was close to 1.274 million, which is this document that you have in the evidence. I'm just talking about the City of Winnipeg 2022 school assessment. So essentially, the hotel has not changed very much since this assessment. And now again, the city is asking to more than double the assessed value of the property. And it's not reasonable for any business to expect a doubling of valuation over such a short period of time. There must be another reason for this. And that's really essentially what it comes down to. How can property be, we went through this process already. How can a property be valued at $1.274 million and then the next year be valued at $2.5 million? It's an enormous increase. Now, this is our property. On the first page, you see this is not the Hotel Fort Garry. This is, the pictures show our front door is a wood door, and then you lead up the stairs. This is our actual stair, and this is our front desk area. And these are our suites. Yes, our suites are beautiful, beautiful suites. With the couple in the hot tub, and the art and the furnishings and the design of the room. That's our business. That's our business. But that's not the bricks and mortar. The art in the Mexican room. This is our business. It's the art and the furnishings and that is of value to guests. We could take this concept and put it anywhere in this city. And because of the art and furnishings and the years of marketing and our expertise of convincing the public to pay $300 a night for a room. I mean, this room is smaller than most hotel rooms. But I mean, people come because it's a getaway without having to go away. And when we opened, the idea, after my commerce degree, we opened 2 rooms, Rome and Japan. And our contractors that were building this room for us, after they put in the plumbing and the electrical and the flooring and everything, and then after we put in all of the furniture of the room, and they came back after they were working on our building for months. And when they came back and saw the art and beautiful stuff in the room, they said, wow, I thought it was going to be nice, but I didn't think it was going to be that nice. And that's essentially what the city is not understanding. They're valuing our furnishings and our design and our marketing expertise, but they're not putting it in. How can you put that in numbers? It's really, really hard to do. So I understand the dilemma. I have tried to put it in numbers. Now, part of the issue here with the numbers that the city has used is they're using the COVID 2020 numbers. If you look at 2017, 2018, 2019, which the city has, because I've given them all of our financial information, it's really around the $500,000 mark. In 2020, it jumped to 806 not because of our daytime getaway. We've always had our daytime getaways. We've always had our daytime getaways. We have a daytime getaway for couples that have young kids at home that can't get away from the kids overnight. So they come for the day to celebrate their birthday or anniversary or special occasion. We also have overnight getaway as well. The daytime getaway is $100 less than the overnight getaway. And yes, we get a lot of daytime getaways that are like real couples that are wanting to do a little escape from the kids for a night. Now in 2020, because the whole world was shut down, but people were still spending money. People were still employed and making money, but they couldn't go to the Jets game. They couldn't go to the Hot Bomber game. They couldn't even go out for dinner. So they chose our place as their getaway. Instead of them going to the $500 Jets game, they came to our place. And that's what was happening. And it happened again in 2021. 2021 was like our best year. I couldn't believe it. It was our best year we've ever had in the history of the forever. But that's not a normal, that's not what we're seeing now, right now, is the income stream is coming back down to the 2019 level. The normalization of 2020 should not even be considered the income stream I'm talking about, because it's not reality. That's why after seeing the approach the city took, with the averaging the income stream and averaging the expenses. I went and last night did this final column that I just brought in today.
Mr. Chairman, I still don't have a copy of that.
Okay, and we haven't seen it either yet.
I'm just handed it to you. I'm just sending it as an email now.
So, Mr. Brown, obviously that you have a look at it before you can make a determination whether we're going to allow it to be presented or not. And of course, the final decision is ours, but I'm interested in hearing your view.
I'm more than confident that I'm gonna be okay with it. If it's just, you know, their version of the stabilization, if it's just, it's not necessarily new information, it's just the way it's being analyzed.
I just sent that to you now.
Thank you. Got it.
You will access it.
I don't want to look at it until I hear
Okay.
whether assessors
Okay.
says that.
Okay, I've got it, Mr. Chairman. I'm okay with it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to just ask my board panel members, because I got to tell you, ordinarily, there's a requirement that evidence has to be presented within a certain time. So people come into a hearing with a shopping bag full of material and doesn't give the other party a chance to react to it.
Absolutely.
So the assessor is indicated, but we still have to make the decision. So, you know, I'm going to take a short recess just to discuss it on a panel. I'm going to ask you both to leave for a minute. The assessors are going to be put out of the meeting and we'll make a decision.
Sure, we can.
Hey, Mr. Brown, and I can indicate, Mr. Applicant, we ordinarily would not accept evidence that's provided at the last minute because the assessor has indicated he's got a problem with it. And because you're going to be able to present anyway, verbally, having a copy of it would be helpful. So we're going to accept it. Okay.
I brought the copies.
Yeah, and we've actually got it on our computers as well. Okay.
So, where was I? Okay. So basically, what in the very last column, what I've done is I've normalized the revenues, taking COVID out of the equation. I took 2017, 18, and 19 revenues and divided it by 3, and that gave us 530,000 to 1933. That's the first hotel rent revenue. Does everybody have that? And then I did the same thing for the commercial rent. And basically, I did the same thing all the way down with the expenses, the cost of sales, and the gross profit on the page 1 was 692, 637. And then on page 2, I have the same format. Basically, what I'm trying to do is take COVID out of the equation, because we believe that year is an anomaly and shouldn't be recognized. So advertising and promotion in 2017 was 25,842. In 2018, it was a little bit more. And in 2019, it went down a little bit. So I took an average of that, which is 262. Same thing with amortization and pretty much all of these other columns. The only difference was insurance. Insurance has absolutely skyrocketed.
Yeah, well, that would be something you deal with next time this comes up. Right now, we're dealing with your expenses as they were when you were generating the income that you're generating.
Okay.
It'd be unfair to say that we were generating unreasonable amounts because of COVID. But I think today's expenses, which are higher, you're basically.
Absolutely.
So
I understand that. So I have this darn spreadsheet. I gotta turn on my computer here. So if we took the stabilization of insurance, it'd probably be around that 17,595 number. Which would increase everything. Now, the other situation is this. If we're going to take this income approach, then right now, basically I'm doing everything that a small business person does in their business to decrease the expenses as much as possible, work super, super hard. And that's not a normal situation for most hotels if we are in this hotel category. For example, not only am I the general manager, I'm the night manager. Last night, I was there till 4 o'clock in the morning, and I left because I was doing this stuff. And unfortunately, we got broken into last night when I left. It's one of the reasons why I was a little late this morning. We don't have like a night person that stays there all night long. We're usually there till 1. I'm usually there till maybe 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then we leave. But a normal hotel would have someone at the front desk 24 hours a day. And there's a cost of that. And that cost is reflected in the normal additional expenses. That's something that I'm going to have to really consider taking on in the future, because we can't have break-ins like we had last night. It actually really happened last night. I can't believe that it happened on the day that this hearing is on. The other thing is I'm the marketing manager. There's a cost to that. There's a payroll and tax clerk. There's a cost to that. There's a maintenance manager. There's a cost to that. I'm the guy that does all of that stuff. Me and my son, who's in engineering, very proud of him. We're We are a family business trying to make some money. And every time we try and increase our business, it seems we're getting smashed from different angles. Not right. We're trying to save the expenses like a normal business should, but it's not a normal situation. You would have, a normal hotel has different departments that have normal costs. I'm doing all of that stuff myself to save the money, which has increased our profits abnormally. Abnormally. And this is why our profits are such. If we add in some of these expenses, just not all of them, okay, but even just some of them, the net operating income goes down significantly. And anybody that's going to come and if there's a miracle that happens that somebody comes and buys our hotel from us, which would be like really difficult because a normal hotelier is not going to buy our hotel. They're not, just not going to happen. It has to be it's a very narrow kind of person that would even take this on. Talked with my wife the other day. She said, you know, if I pass away, I don't want you to sell this. I've built this up. We have a good little business here. She says, I'm not going to be running this thing. He's going to be an engineer. I don't want to. He could run it. He's been helping me. He's going to be an engineer. Who am I going to sell this thing to? Really? I mean, they're not going to pay this kind of money because they realize Lowell is doing 6 jobs that I have to employ someone to do those jobs. And they're going to say, that's not you can't sell this place for $2 million because after I pay the person to do that job, it's only worth $1 million. Unless I find another Lowell Laylock, which is near impossible. And I'm not tooting my own horn, but it's the truth. So when you add those other expenses in, even just the night manager, which you definitely need. Can't believe we haven't had a night manager for 30 years. I've been the night manager. I get a call. Last night I got a call. Can we come into the hotel at 2 o'clock in the morning? Okay, I put my shirt on. I drove from my house down, opened the door to make the extra $300-400. That's what I do all the time. My wife gets crazy. Almost like I'm blessed to have a wonderful wife that allows me to take calls at 3 o'clock in the morning to make the extra money, because we need that money to pay our bills, to do our stuff, to make some money. It's not a normal situation, I'll tell you. So you take that night manager's job, put him in, and forget about the marketing manager and the payroll manager. That's in that $116,000 column, not the $120,000 that the city offered. That's the management, leasing, salaries. And then you take in the maintenance manager, where I have to now, after our break-in, after this meeting, I'm going to go down there and fix our door and fix the doors that they broke. In addition to trying to rent out some more hotel rooms and take care of our guests that were there last night. As a maintenance manager, $25 an hour, 40 hours a week. There's a cost associated, which is $52,000 a year. It's not an unreasonable amount to pay someone to do this kind of work, which we have to do all the time. I always tell our cleaning people and the front desk people, if you want to run a really good hotel, first of all, you have to be a really great cleaner. Second of all, you have to be on top of the maintenance of the hotel, like really on top. We're getting $300 a night. I mean, the Lombard doesn't get $300 a night. $400, $500 a night. We're getting exceptionally amounts of money for the same square footage. For this, not for other than our big penthouse, which is like a meeting type room. The rooms are basically the same square. I've seen the other hotel rooms. I've been in them. I've been in the Hotel Fort Garry. I've been in the rooms of these other hotels. They're about the same square footage, but they don't have what we've always called the dynasty effect. People want to. Years ago, Dynasty was on, and Matthew doesn't understand this analogy. Dynasty, we would all watch Dynasty and want to live like the Ewings in their beautiful homes and live like that. And that was our concept of the hotel, is that we could give them that beautiful Mexican experience without them actually leaving the city of Winnipeg. But that's not the bricks and mortar that's not the property value. That's the table and chair set from Guadalajara, and the art and the furnishings and the figurines and the statues and the design of the room. That's not the bricks and mortar of which is what we're trying to evaluate.
And I think we understand that, you know, you do a lot of things that somebody else would, that saves money to the bottom line. So we get that.
So,
Okay, no, I'm just saying, and we also see that there is a concept there that you work hard on, that you feel is not the building itself, which is something more. So we see that too. And you put a value on what you think your extra work would cost. So we see that too. I just want you to know that. So you don't have to dwell on it further.
okay,
Okay, because you make these points and we get them. Okay, I'm not telling you we're going to accept it. That's up to our decision, but we do hear your evidence, so you'll know that. Okay.
now, in addition to this final concept, so, I mean, when I evaluated this was at 8% cap rate. It was 282, 352, 46, which is unreasonable amount. Our building has to be worth more than $250,000. And I did another evaluation of $1 million. That's the stuff that we had before. So I also took into consideration, I was thinking, well, how can this all make sense? How can it be from $282,000 to $1 million? And so I looked at we looked at other properties, which you have pictures of: Hotel Fort Garry, Best Western Plus Company Inn. These are their suites. Best Western Amenities, the Alt Hotel, and Alt Rooms, the Viscount Gort Hotel on Broadway. We looked at all these hotels and we came up with this page on the end, which lists our hotel at the top, and then the comparable hotels down below. And basically my reasoning was, we take the assessed value of those hotels, the Marlborough, the Viscount Gort, the Hotel Fort Garry, the Delta, Humphrey Inn, Alt, Radisson, Hampton Inn by Hilton, and the Best Western Plus on Pembina Highway. We take these values, these assessed values. They have a number of rooms, and I divided it by the number of rooms versus their assessed value. And it was staggering to see that their per room assessed value for, let's say, the Fort Garry Hotel, which is this similar age as ours, is $24,300 a room. Yet their land assessed, their assessed land value is 65,000 square feet. Ours is only 9,000 square feet. If you take what the city would like to assess ours at $2.5 million, divided by the 13 rooms, our assessed value per room is a staggering $194,000 a room. I mean, that's just insane to think that our Mexican room is worth $194,000. It's like 400 square feet. It's impossible. So I took an average. If we go on to the other page, I took an average of all these rooms, and I came up with an assessed value per room of $38,542.74. We have 13 rooms at 40 grand a room. That assessed value is $520,000. But we also have commercial ground floor space. And there's a value of that, which is basically the same price as our, we only have two floors of hotel rooms, the second and third floor, and then we have commercial ground floor space. So I added that value and I came up with $1 million, which is awfully close to the assessed value that the board agreed upon the last time around that we came to this meeting, because we did this 4 years ago as well. They assessed it at 1.2. I'm saying $1 million. So it's got to be between this $1 million figure and this figure here, because nothing has changed. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brown, any questions of the applicant?
He's on mute.
Apologies.
Thanks.
So yeah, just because it was the last thing you presented, I'm just gonna address the assessment per room approach that you've taken. So first of all, this is a form of comparing assessments, so I want to caution against that. Second of all, you and I think you addressed this. You admitted that you have a commercial portion in your property, right? And so when you divide by the amount of rooms, that could skew that, because the commercial portion's has a value too. So if you took the commercial value out and then divided by 13, that number would go down. Would you agree?
If I took what was the question?
The commercial portion out of the assessment and then divided by the amount of rooms, the assessed value per room would go down. Do you agree?
If I took the commercial portion out of the building?
Out of the assessment.
If you
Because part of that assessment.
Yeah, if you
part of
take the commercial portion off of your total assessment per room and then divide it by number of rooms, your value per room would go down.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And you'll also admit that the comparables that you've chosen are much larger than the subject that we're speaking of, with the smallest comparable being 104 rooms. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, and you'd agree that I'm not sure if you're familiar with economies of scale, but economies of scale simply says that with increased volume, you'll get a reduction in unit costs, meaning the more rooms you have, the lower they'll be. And so just out of curiosity, I did look at some smaller hotels and what the assessment per room was on those. So the Dakota Hotel on St. Mary's with 25 rooms is assessed at $577,000 per room. The Greenbrier Inn on Main Street, 17 rooms, is assessed at $335,294 per room. So it is an interesting exercise. However, when you start to adjust for the amount of rooms, things get.
Mr. Brown, you're asking questions right now, and besides that,
Okay.
and that's a comparative assessment as well. And so I think
I agree. I'll change directions then. Okay, going to your income approach. I guess you're revised. So I think you're admitting that those normal additional expenses were not submitted in the income and expense statements that were provided to the city?
No, I submitted all of those income and expense reports to you.
Correct. You did submit those.
Or-
However,
2017, 18, 19, 20, and 21.
yeah, that's not in dispute. And let's not forget that 2021 is post-reference, so I'm not going to be focusing on that today. What I'm talking about is at the bottom, you have your normal additional expenses. The night manager, marketing manager, payroll, and maintenance manager.
Right.
You'll admit that those were not submitted on the income and expense statements, correct? Because they're not actual expenses.
No, because I couldn't put those in. They weren't.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just establishing that they were not in the income and expense statements. And you would agree?
Yeah, no, they weren't.
Okay, thank you. The management and leasing salaries, about halfway down from your expenses. 110 first year, 120 for the next three, and then 140 for the post-reference year.
Right.
That's your salary, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes.
Okay. So if you were to hire those other managers, would you still pay yourself $120,000 because your role would be reduced?
If I hired other managers to do all of these in the second column, then that's why I would pay myself $80,000.
Okay.
Not
I see
not
that
116.
I see that you made an adjustment.
And then I would hire a night manager for $78,840, a marketing manager for $36,000, a payroll clerk for $18,000, and a maintenance guy for $52,000.
So what were the total of those columns? The 78, 36, 18, and 52? Do you have that? I mean, it's not important.
It's like
Just what I'm trying to establish is that the salaries have gone up from the 120, and now you're using 80 plus those. So it's a significant increase than what was reported to us in terms of wages.
yeah, because I only reported. Well, you're talking about those income expense reports that every year we submit.
Correct. Yeah.
I only reported the actual stuff, not what is reasonable to assume
Okay, thank you.
to pay someone else.
In your expenses, second line down, you have amortization.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we normally don't allow that in income approaches. It would just, like, the bigger your mortgage, the less your building's worth, which doesn't really make sense.
yeah. Well, we don't have a mortgage.
Okay, so that would come out. Just flipping to the next page, you have income from operations, gain on disposable assets, government subsidies, write-off of intercompany loan, and income taxes. Once again, not sure if you're aware, but those are also things we would not allow.
Which ones? Sorry.
Is the gain of disposable assets, government subsidies, write-off of intercompany loan, and income taxes.
Where
That's on your next page.
page 3?
There's no numbers on my pages. I see.
Okay.
Oh, there is on this one. Yes, it's on page 3.
Okay, so the intercompany loans.
Yeah, most of that stuff's not really.
I don't have anything in. I don't have any expenses in there.
Okay, no, yeah, but I'm just trying to establish that when we add that stuff back in, your NOIs, your net operating income, then the following line are actually almost exactly the same as my 3. They're 228, 308, 315, 055, and 465, 325, which are almost identical to what I'm using in my stabilized. So I just wanted to establish that using those 3, we're on the same page. Once we remove those items that shouldn't be So the average, would you agree that your average NOI was $260,000 for those 3 years? Approximately?
Well, the average the average income from operations is 57,364.33.
Okay. I'll,
That's on page number 2.
okay. Let's just shift
Or
to,
89,997.
okay, that's your stabilized NOI.
Yeah, right. That's
Okay,
what
I
that's
just,
what it is.
sorry. Okay, I just have a few questions on the pages you've submitted today. So I'm obviously, your normalized 17, 18, and 19, how is that calculated?
So the 17, 18, and 19, we took the income.
Yep.
And divided it by 3, the same way. I use this your same kind of scenario.
That's perfect. Thank you. That's what I was trying to establish. So what I'm trying to wonder now is why we have different figures. So my 3-year average for rooms, and we have the same 3 starting figures, 556,992, 565,974, and 806,743. I've calculated the average at 643,239.
Right.
236, sorry.
The reason why, sir, is because you're using 2020 as one of those years, which is the COVID year.
Oh, okay, I see. You're 17, 18.
And
right?
what I'm saying COVID should not be
Right.
taken into account for all the
Okay.
reasons that I
I
discussed.
understand. Sorry, that was pretty clear. So you're discounting 2020 because what you're saying is it was an exceptional year.
Exactly.
Okay, that's fine.
So I'm using if you look at 2017, it's 467,692. In 2018, it increased to 556,992 because I got up early in the morning to do that. And in 2019, it increased a little bit more.
Okay, I understand. I was a bit confused, but that's clear to me now. So basically, I guess I just have a couple more questions. So basically, even if we take out 2020, and so now I'm just looking at 18 and 19 because I'm on a 3-year stabilized. So your NOIs for those 2 years were 228,000 and 315,000 once we add the amortization back. Yet you've stabilized at a fraction of that at 81,500. You agree?
Pardon me?
All I'm saying is that the 2 years, so you've taken 2020 out, but the net operating income of the property as it was performing for 2018 and 2019 was 228,000 and 315,000. And these are your figures once I've added back the amortization.
Well, I took 17, 18, and 19.
Correct, but
And
I don't have 17 at my disposal and I haven't vetted your numbers, so I'm just focusing on 18 and 19 right now.
I gave them to you.
No, I know, but I don't have them in front of me and I haven't gone over them. So the question is simple. Would you agree that your NOI for 2018 and 2019 is 228,000 and 315,000 once we've added the amortization back? Or that it's close?
Well, whatever the numbers are the numbers.
Okay. All I'm trying to establish is that the performance of the building is much higher than what you've stabilized at 81,000. It's significantly higher, and That's really all I'm trying to establish there. So your value at 1,018,000, that doesn't include the commercial space, or have you?
Yes, it does.
Okay, because in your other brief, you had added,
There's
I see.
control.
You just divided it into two, I see.
Yeah, basically, I just took the 17, 18, 19 numbers and divided it by 3. And in the 17, 18, 19 numbers has hotel rent and commercial rent.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Steve, any questions?
I just have actually a question of the assessor. Mr. Brown, you had on your brief an effective year build of 1968.
Correct.
And do you know the actual year the building was constructed?
Just bear with me for a second. $1901.
Do you know if the building has been upgraded mechanically at all?
There is quite a few permits. However, I haven't gone through them all. There's 47 permits on file. And yeah, I mean, that would be a probably better question for the owner.
Right, thank you.
We have
Okay,
significantly.
okay. Thank you. That's all my questions, I'm sorry.
That's fine. Mr. Jerry, any questions?
Yeah, I've got a few. It refers a bit to what my colleague raised. You mentioned the contractors that were used that were quite impressed with what it did to your property. When was that work done by the contractor?
We opened about 30 years ago.
But I'm trying to find out a little more recent.
Oh, yeah. Well, we continually redo our rooms. Like, for example, right now, I actually showed you a picture of the front door area. We're redoing our front entrance right now. So I have to do, that's what we've been doing. Right now we're changing the hot water tanks because the hot water tanks shut down. And specifically, like we just put in probably almost $100,000 worth of art into our one of our rooms. Melenchenko Gallery. I bought beautiful art for one of our rooms. We have more art in our hotel room than most hotels in
The contractors that you're using are sort of on a continuous basis, and like there wasn't a big, he talked about 57 permits or something. Would there be a recent permit and an amount?
Well, our hot water tanks cost us about $40,000, $30,000.
And prior to that?
Well, like the $100,000 of artwork, like that's not really a
It's not a contractor.
contractor,
Of amenities.
Yeah,
that you put in there.
When my plumber came in to do the work, I showed him the room before. He said, "Oh, this is nice." And then after I showed him the room with that beautiful art, beautiful, incredible art, like original, it's like walking into a gallery. He said, "Wow, this is really awesome."
Okay, again, I see that in your workup, although there's been some discussion, how you put those figures together, and you gave us the evidence you felt was the COVID situation and the assessor raised the amortization and so on, how that affects the figures. But I see in your sum up, you had shown a range, but now you're between, I don't have that page, I have to go back to it. A range there, 282 to 1,018,000, and now you're back at around 1 million. Now, you're also always using the 8% cap rate. Is there a reason why you're sticking to the 8% cap rate?
The reason why I took the 8% is that's the city assessed what they. I just used their cap rate.
Okay, so you did not actually do a review of what you think the cap rate should be. You've used the city's cap rate.
I use the city's cap rate,
Okay,
even though it should probably be much higher.
and I see that in your last, because you showed us our tax bill, the total assessment on that bill was 1,274,000, but obviously there was an exempt portion. So when you're asking for 1 million today, is that comparable to the 1,032,000 that you had on your last tax bill? I'm going with the evidence that was given to us, and I'm trying to understand your logic of, I understand how you came up with your million to some extent, but I'm just trying to get a better handle how you can justify those figures, and so that's why the cap rate and the NOI and so on are all issues that I'm sort of looking at.
Mr. Tarian, if I may.
Yeah,
I'm not sure where the 1,274,000 whatever came from, because the last board decision was 1,675,000. Not that it's that important.
well, I don't know the tax bill that I looked at, unless I'm making a mistake.
I agree with you, and that's
1,274,000. So what was the last one?
well. It was heard at the Board of Revision in 2019, and you guys can look this up on your.
Yeah, well, we're not. I'm looking at the evidence that I have.
I understand. I'm just verbally stating that the last decision was at 1,675,000. So I'm not sure where that. And I mean, I'm sure if I looked into it enough, I can figure it out.
So you're saying the board decision is different from what's on the tax bill?
Correct.
Oh.
I'm looking at the order right now, and
Okay.
maybe there was an adjustment for some reason, but I don't have to on my.
Well, I'm trying to make, I always look at the evidence and what you're saying. And you brought the tax bill, which is your opening document.
Right.
I used whatever was there as the assessments. And I'm now, the assessor is saying that the order, because you referred to the order that you had appeared before the Board of Revision, and then they had made a decision, but you're sort of, the assessor is sort of saying that it wasn't the amount that is shown on the tax bill. So I'm just trying to understand a little better.
I'm not really sure how that all translated. All I know is that the 2022 and all the previous years were probably the same amount.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Have you got a further clarification on that?
It looks like there was an adjustment made for 2022,
Oh,
which would reduce it to that value. I'm not really clear on what it was based on.
so when you refer
So
to,
the Board of Revision decision was 1,675,000, but it, for some reason, was further reduced internally to 1,274,000. And I would have to ask the person who did it why that happened, but I'm, as of right now, it's unclear.
boy, doesn't make it simple for us.
Doesn't.
it's certainly unfortunate the break-in. I mean, I can see this is how this is discouraging after you're working so hard. And then you mentioned what you put in, and I understand that a family business, there's a lot of stuff going on. But if you put it up for sale, what would you expect to be able to get out of it? Because you're talking about, oh, this is all special, and it's really got amenities that can't find anywhere else. Is there a figure you could give us to sort of consider? I'm not saying it, I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from. Because you're telling us what you've spent, what you're doing, but I'm also looking at value, because that's really what motivates people to do some stuff. Can you comment on that, or you prefer not to?
Well, it's really difficult to do that because I don't want to sell a building because I have sentimental value to that.
You've been 35 years at it, so.
Yeah. It's hard for me to get my dad to sell me his portion. It only took me 35 years to figure it out. So I'm sure.
Oh, okay. I think, Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to get a better handle, and I'm sure you and my colleague are able to see if there's any more we can look at.
Well, like you, Mr. Terry, we're trying. So first of all, Mr. Brown, I'm going to go back to you and ask a question because I'm trying to get a handle as we all are. And I'm looking at your net operating income that you've indicated, and you use the reported income that you received from the applicant in doing so. And I see that in 2000 and I think it was at your first year, 17, or was it 18? $228,308 is your NOI.
Correct.
And the next year is $315,055. So it's gone up considerably in 2019. And then in 2020, which is the knockout year with COVID, $464,918. So I'm wondering, how does that then stabilize to $238,037 in the fourth line?
How did I stabilize that? So
Yeah, because it looks like you're going back to 2018, adding $10,000 to it, basically.
yeah, no, that's what it looks like for sure. But if you go down on the right-hand column, I show you what I did with each line. So the first line is a 3-year average.
Right.
The other line is they're almost, they are all 3-year averages, except for the taxes, which we've used actual. Those are the only 2 line items we can actually check internally and vet. And it looks like the owner was reporting honestly because they're exactly the same, which is nice to see.
No, absolutely.
So yeah, we've used 3-year averages across the board, except for the management fee, FF&E reserve, and the taxes. And so I stated earlier, if you just took the 3 NOIs at the bottom that you referenced, the actual average of those was 260, 466.
Okay.
So we've used slightly lower.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, that brings me to a question I have of the applicant now. And I'm looking at your, and these are your reported incomes here, your from the statements you sent to the city every year. So it shows that in 2018 you had $228,308, and it went up in 2019 before COVID to $315,055. So things are going up even before COVID. Would you agree?
Yes. Because I'm also the expenses have gone down too, right?
No, fair enough. But I'm just saying that you are showing a better return in 2019 than you did in 2018.
Yeah.
Significantly better. And then you knocked out the lights in 2020, and you indicate 2021 has also been a good year.
Right.
And now we're in 2022, and I don't know what's going there. And it doesn't matter because that's something that will come up next time if you have to come back. After you step in.
Not.
Yeah. Okay, but things are improving before COVID, I can see significantly, correct?
Pardon?
The bottom line did improve significantly between
yeah.
2018 and 2019. Just on the bottom line. Okay, that's my only question. Okay, well, thank you. We've got all the information. We'll have to sit down and render a decision, and you'll see this is.
It's a hard situation because it's such a unique property.
And those are the ones we get. If it's cookie cutter, you know, it usually can be dealt with without us having to make a decision. But that's what we're here for. So,
Okay, thanks.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, panel members, and thank you, Mr. Lella.
Okay, so I can indicate that all matters that we've had scheduled today have been heard, and we're going to close this hearing.